A crew of internet explorers breaks into an abandoned hotel to find $300 million supposedly hidden inside the walls. What they actually find is a rival gang with guns, a building that seems to be actively hunting them back, and something pale, hungry, and very much not human waiting in the dark. Only some of them are walking back out. This is Do Not Enter, the 2026 Lionsgate horror thriller based on David Morrell's novel Creepers, and it's basically what happens when true crime YouTube culture wanders into a place it really shouldn't. I'm breaking down exactly how this one plays out, so let's get into the Paragon Hotel. Meet the creepers, Rick, Diane, Cora, and Vert, a small crew who film themselves sneaking into condemned buildings for views. Nothing about them screams professional. They're broke, chasing a bigger audience, and running on the same energy as every group chat that's ever said we should totally livestream this right before doing something spectacularly unwise. Their next target isn't just some random building, though. It's the Paragon, a hotel abandoned since the 80s, tied to a mobster who vanished along with a rumored $300 million nobody ever recovered. That number alone is doing a lot of the movie's early heavy lifting, because it turns curiosity into greed almost instantly. Places like the Paragon only stay standing in movies like this because somebody, somewhere, decided the story was worth more than tearing the building down. 40 years of local legend has turned an empty hotel into something closer to a myth, the kind of place teenagers dare each other to spend a night in, the kind local news does a spooky segment on every Halloween. The creepers aren't the first people to hear about the money. They're just the first ones dumb enough, or desperate enough, actually, to go looking for it on camera. There used to be a fifth member of this crew, JD. He split off after some unspecified blow-up on a previous shoot, and here's the detail that actually matters. He didn't just quit, he joined a rival crew, Todd and Mac, who are chasing the exact same rumor about the exact same hotel. So before anyone even sets foot inside the Paragon, the movie's already planted its first real threat, and it isn't supernatural. It's a guy who used to know all their moves, now working against them. The movie doesn't spend much time explaining what actually broke the friendship, and honestly, it doesn't need to. What matters isn't the specific fight, it's that Rick, Diane, Cora, and Vern are walking into the most dangerous stunt of their careers still trusting each other completely, while the person who knows their habits best is now working against them. Cora invites one more person along, a reporter named Frank, hoping his coverage turns their break-in into an actual story instead of just another clip nobody watches. And that's the whole crew heading into the Paragon. 4 creepers chasing fame, 1 journalist chasing a story, all of them chasing money none of them have actually seen yet. And there's something worth sitting with before the scares even start. This entire expedition only exists because a camera is running. Nobody's paying the creepers a salary to do this. They're doing it because an audience is watching, and that changes decisions in ways the characters never fully admit out loud. You push a door open you'd otherwise walk away from, you go one hallway further than you should, because turning back on camera feels like admitting defeat in front of strangers. The movie never lectures you about this. It just quietly lets the livestream keep running while the group makes worse and worse calls. Once they're inside, the hotel does what every abandoned building in this genre does, it starts making noise it has no business making. Except Do Not Enter isn't content to just scare you with creaking floors. It layers a second, very human threat on top almost immediately, because Diane posted enough details about their plan online that Todd and Mac tracked them down and break in right behind them. And unlike the creepers, they're armed. That's really the smartest structural choice this movie makes, even if the reviews were mixed on everything else. For a solid stretch, you genuinely don't know which threat is going to get someone first, the rival crew with a gun, or whatever's actually living in the walls. Most haunted building horror only has to scare you with the unknown. This one scares you with the unknown and a guy holding a pistol who used to be your friend. Think about what that actually does to the character's decision making. Every hallway they choose isn't just which direction feels less haunted, it's also which direction is less likely to have Todd and Mac in it. 2 separate threats means 2 separate sets of instincts fighting each other in real time, and the movie gets a lot of mileage out of characters making the wrong call for a perfectly reasonable reason. Nobody's an idiot here. They're just triaging 2 different kinds of danger at once, and sometimes triage is wrong. And JD is really the emotional hinge the first half hangs on, because he's not some stranger. He knows exactly how Rick, Diane, Cora, and Bryn think, which means every move the rival crew makes feels less like an ambush and more like a betrayal with inside information attached. There's something almost more unsettling about a threat that used to trust you than one that's a total stranger. It means the danger already knows your blind spots before you've even walked into the building. Then the actual threat reveals itself, the pale creature, something that isn't remotely human, tormenting everyone in the hotel one at a time rather than all at once. And that pacing choice matters more than it looks like on the surface. Picking people off individually means every character gets a private moment of dawning horror before the group even realizes what's happening, which is a much slower, crueler kind of dread than a single big reveal. JD gets impaled. Mac goes down to a tripwire rigged straight through his neck, which, notice, isn't even the creature directly, it's the hotel itself finishing the job. The building has its own traps left over from whatever happened here decades ago. Todd doesn't get off any easier. The creature takes his heart, and the movie doesn't look away from it. By this point, whatever alliance or rivalry existed between the two crews has completely dissolved, because none of that matters anymore. Nobody in that hotel is thinking about $300 million anymore either. That's the quiet joke buried in the back half of this movie. The thing that got everyone into the Paragon in the first place completely stops mattering the second survival becomes the only currency left. Greed got them in the door. Fear is the only thing steering anyone by the second act. And there's a version of this story where the treasure hunt and the horror stay separate, a monster movie with a heist subplot bolted on. Do Not Enter refuses to let you split it that way. Every trap that kills someone was built by a person protecting that money decades ago, which means the greed and the horror were never actually two different threats. They're the same one, just separated by 50 years. It's worth pointing out, too, that Vern and Cora barely get individual arcs of their own once the chaos starts. They mostly survive by staying close to the group and reacting fast, which sounds like a criticism but actually tracks with the movie's whole thesis. This isn't a story about specific people being clever enough to outsmart a monster. It's a story about who happens to be standing in the wrong hallway at the wrong second, and who gets lucky enough not to be. Survival here has almost nothing to do with virtue. The back third of this movie belongs almost entirely to Frank and Diane, and it's genuinely the most committed stretch of the whole film. The pale creature has fixated on Diane specifically, decided, in whatever way this thing decides anything, that she's going to be its bride. And Diane's response is the sharpest beat in the script. She doesn't fight it head on. She plays along, puts on the bridal gown it wants her in, waits for an opening, and then turns on it physically the second she gets one. That's not a damsel being rescued. That's someone using the only leverage available to her, which is convincing a monster she's already surrendered. And Diane's decision to play along instead of fighting immediately says more about her than any line of dialogue could. She spent the whole movie as one of the people steering this expedition, someone used to making calls under pressure, and that instinct doesn't disappear just because the threat stopped being human. Putting on that gown isn't submission. It's the same read-the-room instinct that got the creepers this far in the first place, just aimed at something that was never going to respond to force. Frank, meanwhile, has already tried to end this once. He crashes a dumbwaiter down on the creature, a genuinely desperate, improvised move that should work and doesn't. The thing survives it, which tells you everything about what kind of horror movie this actually is underneath the treasure hunt dressing. Something built from decades-old rage, and whatever ritual created it in the first place doesn't die from one clever trick. It dies from someone willing to trade everything for someone else. And that's exactly what happens. When the creature finally corners Diane again, Frank doesn't hesitate. He throws his entire body into it, and the two of them go over a balcony together. The pale creature lands on a wooden structure below and finally, actually dies. Frank doesn't get up. He traded his own survival permanently for hers in the space of about 2 seconds, with no music sting or slow motion to cushion it. It just happens, and then it's over. There's something almost unfair about how little ceremony the movie gives that moment. After 90 minutes of build-up, tripwires, and a monster that survives being crushed by a dumbwaiter, the actual death that finally ends it happens in silence, off a balcony, with nobody around to witness it except the audience. That restraint is probably the single best directing choice in the whole film. It refuses to turn Frank's death into a triumphant hero moment, because nothing about what just happened feels like a win. What's left after that is deliberately anticlimactic, and that's the right call. Rick, Diane, Cora, and Vern make it out of the Paragon. All 4 of the original creepers somehow survive a night that killed almost everyone who came unarmed, informed, or supernatural. The rival crew is gone. Frank is gone. And in the very last shot, driving away from the hotel, Rick casually admits he grabbed some of the cash on his way out. After everything, the betrayal, the traps, the thing in the bridal gown scene, a man throwing himself off a balcony to save someone else, the movie's last beat is just a guy quietly pocketing money like the night barely happened. That's the real gut punch hiding under the jump scares. Frank is the only person in this entire story who acts without calculating what he personally gets out of it, and he's the one who doesn't make it home. Everyone who survives walks away a little richer, literally and figuratively, while the one selfless choice in the whole film gets buried with the guy who made it. The movie never comments on that irony out loud. It just lets the car drive off and lets you sit with it. So is Do Not Enter a great horror movie? Not really. If we're being honest, it knows exactly what it is, and it's not trying to reinvent anything. But strip away the creature effects and the tripwire kills, and there's a genuinely mean little idea sitting at the center of it. Greed gets people through the door, fear gets them to the exit, and the only person who acts out of anything else entirely doesn't get to leave. And it's hard not to read that as a small jab at the exact kind of content this movie is dressed up as. Urban exploration channels, abandoned location livestreams, true crime creators walking through places they were explicitly warned not to enter. That whole corner of the internet runs on the promise that pushing one boundary further gets you the next viral clip. Do not enter doesn't really moralize about that culture, but it doesn't let it off easy either. The people who built their whole identity around chasing the next reckless upload get to walk away with a payday and a story to tell. The one person who wasn't performing for anyone doesn't get to walk away at all. And maybe that's the closest thing this movie has to a real point buried under the jump scares and the tripwires. It never pretends the creepers learned anything. It never gives Rick a moment of guilt over the cash in his pocket. Never has Diane look back at the hotel with any real regret. They just drive off. The title stops feeling like a warning about the hotel somewhere around the credits and starts feeling like a warning about exactly the kind of person who'd hear "do not enter" and immediately start filming anyway, which, if you clicked on a recap of this movie, might be worth sitting with for a second. That's "do not enter." If this recap saved you 91 minutes you weren't getting back anyway, let me know down in the comments what you would have grabbed from the Paragon, and hit subscribe for more breakdowns like this right here on AllSam Recaps. I'll see you in the next one.